I mean,
Right.
come here, slap the realtor cuffs on me. Gee, what are you going to report me to the board here? What do you? This is Byron Lazine and Nicole White, and you were tuned into episode 315 of The Real Word.
Word is up.
Remote today.
We are
Although we do remote on this pod a lot, but I happen
quite
to be
often.
sitting. Yeah, we do it a lot. I happen
Oh,
to be
you just want
sitting
to
in
say
an.
where you are. That's why
Yeah, I
you're
want to say
bringing it
where I
up.
am.
Yeah.
I want
Okay.
to give a shout out to the T3 Summit here in Arizona. Maybe we'll cover some of the stuff that's happening out here on next week's pod. A whole bunch of stuff happening here,
Lots
but
of stuff happening.
one of the conversations that's happening throughout the industry and covered by our friend Notorious R.O.B on his Substack is what he calls a central problem. Just too many bad agents. Now, at BAMFest a week ago or 2 weeks ago, when I kicked off the event with Jared James and Nicole, I
Yep.
asked Jared one of the first questions. I think this was the initial question. I said, "Hey, before we get into some of the changes and how we can move forward and how we can better serve consumers," I asked Jared his thoughts on the age-old debate of part-time agents versus full-time agents.
Right.
It was maybe the only question I felt like Jared didn't give me a straight answer, because he said, I don't really have a problem with part-time agents.
Well, let's be honest, though. I mean, you and I have you especially have gone back and forth on it too. So,
I flip-flopped on it. No
yeah.
question about it. I
Yeah.
flip-flopped to some degree on it. Listen, beginning of my career, I was all in, still all in, obviously,
Of course.
on my career, but I was working round the clock, 80 hours, and I just would see other agents that maybe are putting in 10 hours, and I'm like, man, I'm studying everything. I'm working, so it just to me was a little disrespectful if you didn't know the market inside and out, if you didn't know every single form inside out, if you didn't know the business fully. But Jared's take on it is, hey, um, don't be an amateur. He talks about pros versus amateurs all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And so with that, I can get it. It's like, hey, if you're a professional, you're working, and this is where I've landed over the years too on this, is like, okay, if you have another source of income, cool. That's no problem. Like, having another source of income is great, multiple sources of income. But being a pro does require a huge commitment into the career, looking at it as a career, looking at it and studying your craft. So going back to the Notorious R.O.B piece on his Substack, he was at a University of Minnesota Law School event that was titled, "Will the NAR Settlement End 6% Real Estate Commissions?" Like, University of Minnesota, is playing off of the headlines. Can't do
Of course. Come on. Why
any
wouldn't you?
real, you know, research, I guess, there to get a better title for their talk. But it probably got good attendance at the university. Now, Rob attended the event to point out the answer to the question, and he's emphatically answered it no. The NAR settlement will do nothing to end or even lower the 6%. And then he highlighted here, it's closer to 5% these days. There was a recent Wall Street Journal op-ed from Damian Eales, the CEO of Realtor.com. We covered this on Knowledge Brokers podcast last week. You can go check it out there. I was pretty critical of the op-ed. But he points out that the commission right now is 5.3% based on Realtor.com data across the country. So yeah, definitely closer to 5 than to 6, which is funny, Nicole, right? Where like everybody's like, it's 6, it's 3 and 3, every single headline. But then when you dig into the data, that's not accurate.
Right.
Nicole, I was actually with one of the biggest Engel and Volker. Am I saying it right?
Yep.
Okay.
I've never said it out loud before, to be honest. It's the red one, right? The red. Their logo's red. It's in red.
Luxury brand, great brand, across,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of different luxury markets. Anyways,
Yep.
Paul Benson, shout out to him. He's got a whole bunch of offices, I think 50 plus offices across the West Coast. And I was asking him about, like, some of the brokers' feelings on jumping in. They have 60 days now to jump into the pool and basically say, okay, here's my money. I'm jumping in. I'm going to negotiate. And then ones that have chosen not to. And, it was interesting. He said, that the brokers who are like saying, you know what, I have no reason to jump into are ones that operate in a lot of different markets where it's like, I'm not even in the Missouri market. And oh, by the way, when you look at all my markets, some might be 4, 5, 6, like the commissions are all over the place.
Right.
So what the heck? How does this law? Some people are just deciding they're going to move forward and not settle. I'm not saying that that's his choice or anybody else's choice. I'm just saying this is a conversation that I was generally having um, with him about some of the discussion between brokers. So it's interesting. Some are choosing, we've seen Compass, Real Brokerage jump in, obviously settle, even though they weren't named. They use that NAR proposed settlement to jump in and get it behind them. And then there's some brokers out there in discussions right now that are weighing options. Okay.
Right.
But the commissions are clearly all over the place. This theory about being 6% locked in is just simply untrue,
Silly.
and it's really never been the case. So Notorious R.O.B says the central issue in the commission lawsuits was steering. This is something he said over time, and he believes that remains true. But after attending, and here's where we're getting to the overall
Yep.
discussion here. After attending the University of Minnesota event, he believes that the central issue with the agitation of the consumers and how people feel about real estate commissions is actually agent incompetence. And one of the reasons I wanted, Nicole, you called me out. Oh, you just want to mention where you are. One of the reasons I want to mention where I'm at here in Scottsdale, Arizona at the T3 Summit is because in this piece, he mentions the Swanepoel Danger Report, which is called the A1 issue. In this A1 issue, we're going to put the slide up so everybody can see this if you're watching and not just listening. This is a Swanepoel report. We'll read it. Masses of marginal agents destroy reputation. The real estate industry is saddled with a large number of part-time, untrained, unethical, and or incompetent agents. This knowledge gap threatens the credibility of the industry. And then there's further context below. The knowledge and competency gap from the most and least is very large due to the low barriers of entry, low continuing education requirements, and the lure of quickly making dollars. For decades in the industry, has held the opinion that it's a profession. However, the reality is that those outside the industry don't hold the same opinion. Most professions, doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer, require thousands of hours of study, beginning with a bachelor's degree, even becoming an earth driller. Earth
Hmm.
driller requires an average of 704 hours. I would have actually thrown in a better example there to become a hairdresser. It's like over 2,000 hours. So the delta between great real estate service and poor real estate service has simply become too large due to the unacceptably low entry requirements to become a real estate agent. So that's the um, T360 Swanepoel position, that there is a huge gap between marginal agents and those that are really professional or really good. As Jared James says, amateur versus pro. Um,
Right.
uh, Maybe, I don't think you give enough context when you just say part time versus full time. I think that's the angle that Jared was saying.
Well, I think that there's plenty of probably full-time agents too that are pretty marginal as well.
Right. And I think that is the point. Like, right, just because you're sitting in the office 40 hours
Right.
and getting access to free Wi-Fi doesn't necessarily mean, and I think that's the argument that Jared's making, like, hey, be a pro, not an
Right.
amateur, right?
Yeah.
If you're just in there scrolling Facebook in the office and you're not really putting in, the time to get better every single day, then you could fall into that amateur category. So it's interesting. Swanepoel does point out a large number of part-time, but then they go on to say untrained, unethical, and
Untrained.
or incompetent agents. I think the training is such a big part of this. Like,
Huge. I mean, that's the only part, you know? I mean, that's really what sets it all apart. And it's unfortunate because it really sort of narrows down into your brokerage, your like the manager, like who's in charge, like who's directing these agents.
well, also the willingness to, because here's what I'll say about this industry. there is a lot of marginal training from managers, and you can make that argument. It's like, okay, well, what's the
You
leadership
mean like
of
they're
the
not
manager?
doing it, or like the training
There,
that they're
there's
giving
both.
isn't good?
There is both across the country. There's phenomenal managers out there. I want to make that statement very clear. There's phenomenal agents,
Yep,
managers, leaders who are doing it, but there is a big group that are either just not effective in it personally, are not getting effective leadership from their broker position to be able to relay that information, all of that. But I'm also going to put the accountability on the agent. There's enough
100%.
great training out there where agents who seek it out, do the time to do the research and find those opportunities, can get access to training, okay? And great training and sharpen their toolbox, right? But you've got to show up for it. And there's too many agents that don't necessarily show up for this training, that don't want to put the time in until they get that one moment. Oh my gosh, I've got a consumer who's asking me this question. They run into the office or they run into, a text group and they say, I need the answer to this question. How do I handle
Now.
this situation that
Right.
I'm in with a consumer now? Well, now you're just a relayer, which
Well,
could
and
be,
you're being reactionary. Like,
it's
that's
very,
highly reactionary.
you're going to take the first answer, whether it's the
Right.
right or wrong answer. You're going to take the first answer and run back and give that to them. Now, the agents who are preparing for that moment well ahead of time, who are understanding everything about their market, about their laws, about their forms, about their community, boom, opportunity presents itself. They meet the moment with confidence. They don't have an upswing in their tonality when they're talking to a client, not because maybe they're great at scripting, because they know the information inside and out. That really comes down to the separator of pro, great agent versus amateur, somebody who's not putting in the time. And the marginal agent at this event in Minnesota, um, was uh, was basically outlined. Hey, this is what we don't want. But Notorious R.O.B heard critic after critic who was saying we don't want this marginal agent, critical of this marginal agent, say straight up that buyer agents do, in fact, add value. So even the biggest of the critic can understand that, okay, a great buyer representation, somebody who's great at advocating and guiding a buyer through the process of home buying or home investing, does add value and should be compensated. Americans want to tip people. Americans want to be compensated. Um, Americans don't feel like they're being steered into 20% tip at a restaurant. It's traditional, it's customary. And when you get exceptional service, many Americans are willing to go above and beyond the 20% tip. Nobody feels like they're being got. What they feel like they're being got when they're treated inappropriately at a restaurant, or rude, or they don't have great service, right? Like if you wait an hour over expected time to get served, you expect the chef to come out, explain the situation, the server to come out, be communicative in that, give you options. Hey, we could take this off the bill, or
Right.
something happened in the back of the kitchen. Maybe we could adjust, get you something else, whatever the case may be. You get that type of service. Okay, I can understand the issue. When you don't get that service, you have a marginal experience. Consumers have the ability, obviously, for the tip to reflect that. And consumers, and that's a basic example, but consumers should have the ability to negotiate here's the value that buyer agent's bringing to me. Here's the knowledge that they have that they've built up over years, that they're going to share in this home buying journey with me, and they should be compensated for that. Um, so whether they want coming out of the article here, whether they want whether what they want is right way forward or not, or is not important takeaway. Did that make any sense, Nicole? Because it didn't make sense when I just said it. All right, so I'll try this again. I don't think that made any sense. Now, whether what they want, okay, is the right way forward or not is not the important takeaway. Okay. The important takeaway, according to Notorious R.O.B, is that everybody agrees that good agents add value and should be paid for their time and expertise. That to him, coming out of this event in Minnesota, is the important takeaway. Good agents add value and will be paid. Okay. So no matter what he calls whatever compensation scheme the government and the industry comes up with, whatever happens here, the plaintiffs now are demanding, let's settle this now. That just came out yesterday or today. Sounds like the attorneys want to get that,
They wanna
want to
get
get those
paid.
millies in their bank
Yeah.
account. They want this settlement to move
They got
forward.
probably
What's it?
college tuition or something. That shit ain't cheap lately.
Now, what's the DOJ going to do? You're looking at colleges. Nothing is cheap out there. So no matter what everything shakes out at the end of the day, the great agents out there, you guys, you're going to be paid because people want this service. Here's something, Nicole, from I think this was from a Reddit post. The consumer said this. For all of the negativity, that Wall Street Journal op-ed that I mentioned on Friday, a lot of negativity in the comment sections. For all the negativity, there's a lot of consumers you can find that are really passionate about their buyer agent experience. Here's a Reddit post. We've been looking for a home for 3 years. Our agent has taken us to see places 3 times, meaning like the same place 3 times,
Right.
multiple times. They've been looking at probably dozens of homes over 3 years. Have you been in this situation, Nicole? Does this sound
Haven't
familiar?
we all? Yeah.
As these folks are not in a rush, and the area is far from our location. Recently, we had an offer accepted, but post inspection things went south. Long story short, seems clear the deal's not moving forward. We might not have our sale for months. While we ultimately buy with our agent, or we will ultimately buy, we feel awful about the time he has spent with us on this deal with us, and there's been no payday. He constantly updates us and is so lovely. So asking Reddit, do you send him something in this instance, or is it just the life of an agent? Do we tip him? Would that be weird? Or that would be weird, right? To go and, I guess, how would you get a tip over to an agent? A Venmo? Um,
I don't know, are you allowed to accept that?
you're allowed to charge a fee
Yeah, but,
for
like so, like, as, like,
services
a closing
rendered.
gift, if an agent gives you a check, you
It's got to
can't.
run through your broker.
Right.
You'd have
Yeah.
to say,
Right. Make it out to
um,
my brokerage.
you would,
Yeah. No,
you
I'm not
would
I know it's silly, but no, I get it.
legally,
Yeah,
you
so
would
they
have to
can't
do that.
Venmo you they can't Venmo you then.
No, I mean, that was a joke, Nicole. I mean,
Right.
don't come here, slap the realtor cuffs on me. Gee, what are you going to report me to the board here? What are you? It's just, you know that. But to a consumer, they don't know it, that there's all these realtor rules. There's all these board rules.
Right.
They don't know that. They're just thinking about like, damn, is this the
Right,
life of an agent?
they're feeling appreciative, which is great. I mean, people like to feel appreciated as well, especially if they want this guy to keep working for them. I mean, you need to, show your appreciation so that he'll continue to work with you.
Yeah, this is a consumer looking at it saying, man, I wouldn't work for on and off different, stack up those hours for 3 years without being paid for it. That's the consumer getting experiencing great service saying, "Man,
Right.
I wouldn't do this." So if you're an agent who's had a similar experience and, say somebody were like, "Hey, can I offer you a tip? Can I offer you something in this instance?" I know for sure what my response would be to a consumer is like, "Can I offer you something? You've been working for years for me. You haven't gotten a payday. I feel terrible about it. Your service is phenomenal. Um, is there something I can offer you in this instance?" Nicole, what would be your response there?
Honestly, I'd probably just ask them to continue to refer me to their friends.
Boom. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Hey, my business is built on great
Referrals.
clients like yourself. And it's my business is primarily referral basis. If I provide great service to somebody like you,
Right.
um, you're interested in introducing somebody to me, and I think, um, I really thank you for even offering this. So I'd love for you to keep me in mind when other people are in this situation. And I'm just curious, Nicole, if you're interested in it, I'd love to create a case study around this because I don't know if you've read up on some of the new changes with buyer agent commissions. Certainly we've had some time to discuss it, but it's a question that's going to come up in my business. And if we could go do a case study around the service that I've provided for you over the last 3 years, and it's something that you'd be willing to help me build a little bit, and I could share with
Yeah, I love it.
future clients of mine. I'd love to do that, and I'd love for you to be a part of that if you're willing to do that, right? And they offered you
Absolutely.
something, so they might be able to do that. I mean, this is all going to open up a whole other thing, like where some agents are just going to want to be compensated for every hour. Um, pay pay by the hour is a risky proposition for the consumer. You know, how many you'd have to
Well,
really keep
I think
them
even flat
informed.
fees, though, are gonna be
Flat
risky for the
fees.
consumer too, because there's just gonna come a point where the agent's just gonna be like, "This isn't even worth it anymore," if that's really what is driving them, you know?
Right. I mean, what if, hey, I'm gonna pay this flat fee, and then what if my life changes? Now I'm not buying, or all these different things can happen. And um, so there you go. He goes on in this piece to say, if an agent has financial stability, they're less likely to be unethical, essentially, just to kind of paraphrase there. Financial stability comes with doing a lot of deals. So there's an argument to be made that the gap is going to continue to widen, where the top agents are doing the majority of the business. Um, we'll see how many agents stay in the business. There's a recent report that we covered on BAM. You go to nowbam.com. We'll put the article down in the show notes along with Notorious R.O.B Substack, of course. Um, but there's an article. It was covered in the Real Estate Rundown podcast from Kayla's CEO founder of Zudelio. So NAR had membership reports published all the way back into the 70s, Nicole's, and now
Mhm.
all of them have been deleted from the site. So that's like 50 years of data. Um, she emailed NAR, as many others have, and was told that the reports have been removed from the website, and if she wanted to find the realtor account for her local association, she could contact the board. BAM reached out and received a similar response from NAR. And it's just interesting because it's like, what's the point of deleting that data? So, agent count's probably going down right now for a variety of reasons. I think we can all agree on that.
Right.
But it went down after the great financial crisis. I mean, it dropped below a million, right? We peaked recently at 1.6 million. We dropped below a million in like 2012 at the bottoming, of the market conditions and everything like that. And then, after 2012, it slowly, incrementally started to increase. And then over the last recent boom, 1.6 million, but why delete that data? Maybe, I guess, fear out of a furthering of a mass exodus. I don't know why they would delete that data.
I can't even maybe you can ask today.
Ooh, Nicole teasing it out. So, um, I haven't said anything online, Nicole.
No, we're not gonna say anything right now, but just keep it in your back pocket.
I should be having a discussion with somebody from NAR out here. That interview will be published here on the channel. Um, so if you're, the hope is that, because by the time this goes live, I should be sitting in that pod. So
You
hopefully
better
that
be
pod doesn't
sitting in
get
that pod.
canceled. And this will be up immediately. It'll go up like tomorrow. If I get that pod. So yeah, I will be asking questions like that. Um, you
I
know,
think those are softballs. I think those are questions that, like, there should be an answer to. And I think it would be nice for them to give an answer so that there isn't so much speculation around it, you know? I mean, when you're not answering questions like that, people can make up a whole bunch of different stories, and then they're not like, it's silly to continue to spread that.
well, yeah, I mean, really, because we got the same response when Bam reached out. So in the article,
Right.
there's not a definitive.
Like, why?
reason why that data would go away after being published, going 50 years back.
Right.
There's 3 consecutive decline. But listen, the market has shifted so much. Nobody expected agent count to go up.
And it's interesting though, because I'd like to think that that's not really what it's about. Is it about, like, maybe other lawsuits, seeing how many agents were I could because it could be kind of related to
That's a
that.
that's a great answer, and that would be a better answer.
Right, so they don't wanna disclose, like, how many
Hey,
agents they're actually, like, putting on the chopping block. I mean, that I can understand. That makes more
look,
sense to me than people criticizing them for agent count over the
saying yeah,
decades.
saying, "Listen, so much of the stuff that's been published online, whether it be Swanepoel reporting, NAR reporting, a Tom Ferry podcast, so much of the stuff that's been published over the years online has been used in court.
Right,
Right now, we're removing a variety of different things
to protect
um,
you.
until we get on the other side of it.
Right,
That you give me that answer. Hey,
let's go.
per a legal recommendation, there's going to be things that have been customarily on our site that aren't going to be there right now. That data will likely return. Hey,
Right,
I'm moving on from that question because that's
right,
an answer I think everybody can understand.
right,
So,
exactly. Well,
love your
exciting
thoughts.
24 hours here we're heading into.
It's an exciting 24 hours. I've 5 interviews lined up today.
Good.
Yeah,
Arizona's treating you well.
I know, but the dry air kills me. I'm gonna need
Yeah,
a
but are you even going outside? Like, you're staying in the air conditioning, you're fine,
yeah. It's
right?
no, they did the cocktail hour outside last night, so a little bit outside, and
Okay.
they had they did happen to have a little morning kickoff event thing out on the there was like 18 holes, and
And you went? You went?
yesterday morning. Yeah, it was
With your lanyard? Did you put your lanyard on too?
no. I do have
You
a lanyard somewhere back there,
I
but not on the golf course. No,
I
no.
know how much you love those lanyards.
Gotta love a good lanyard. I collect them,
Have to.
so I just look back on all these events. All right, love your thoughts on the marginal agent. What's your take on that? Where do you stand on how an agent should look at the career? Love your thoughts in the comments on all of that, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell because there is a monster interview that you will not want to miss coming later on. Glad we're back, Nicole. We took last week off from the real word. I'm glad you're feeling better.
I'm feeling better now. Yes. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yes.
Put in the comments if you know the reason why Nicole missed.
Jesus Christ, little jerk.
All right. I'll see you. I think you and I will be in person for next week's pod, and we'll
I
see
hope
you guys.
so.
Keep it real.
See you guys. Agents looking to stand out from the crowd, Reminder Media is a resource you have to check out. You get your own branded print and digital magazines, email newsletters, and social media content. Reminder Media delivers these resources to your contacts on autopilot, keeping you top of mind with your database. All you need to do is focus on your follow-up calls and watch referrals and repeat business come in. I just started using this service and I'm already seeing results from this after only a few weeks. Use the link below to try out Reminder Media.
At BAMX, we listen to what real estate professionals want and need. That's why our platform is filled with sought-after courses, content, and tactical assets for your business. And that's why we launched BAMX in a box with templates and scripts done for you, delivered each Friday. The best part? It's not coming from panel pontificators who bought their followers and don't sell any real estate. It's coming from top agents, team leaders, and content creators in the industry. It's education that actually shows you how to do what you need in today's market. And now it includes editable templates and scripts so you can easily deliver that knowledge to your database. Every day, we continue to add more content into BAMX, into our private Facebook community, content that works, content that our members have exclusive access to daily. So do not wait any longer. Use code REALWORD and join the thousands of agents taking their business to the next level today. Code REALWORD for 10% off. I'll see you in BAMX.